All right, here we go. Ladies and
Um,
gentlemen, we are back.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, look, I really wanted to jump into this because I think, and we've talked about this before, kind of like with the situation with with the death of your father, and how it's important for people to be able to see our stories, like see that. Listen, we're human beings and we go through stuff,
Yeah.
right? And I do think, because I often see this, and I don't know if you experience this, but when I'm talking with people, sometimes they marvel when I'm like, "Yo, I got issues," and it's like, and they were like, "Whoa, you
Yeah.
you got really?" I'm like, "Yeah, like, dude, last time I checked, I don't walk on water.
Mm.
I'm." And last time I checked, he had issues too.
That part.
Shoot, but so I'm like, it's funny, but
Mhm.
I do think that is very beneficial for people to hear, like, oh, okay, they're human, and because it kind of gives us permission to be human.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And I know that sounds weird that people need that, but I think people need permission to be human, permission to make mistakes and go through their journey and not feel like crap. You know what I mean? Like, to be able to go through their
Keeping it all
journey
bottled in.
and yeah, yeah, and be free to share it, be free to talk about it, and not feel like they're icky because they're experiencing life.
Yeah, blocked by
And
shame, blocked by guilt.
right, right, right. And so for that, I think today, you had an experience that I would love to talk about. So,
Sure.
um, you ready to
Sure.
just jump into it?
Oh man, you know me. I'm an open book, you know. Let's jump into it. I'm whatever we need to get out, whatever we need to discuss, I'm willing and able. So let's get into it, brother. All right, do you
So,
want to give them a platform before, you know what I mean? You jump in, just let them know.
yeah, so this I was gonna start with that question to
Sure.
try to get us where we are. You experienced a divorce, right?
Yes.
And
Amongst many other things, but yes.
right, well, that we gonna get into all of that.
Mhm.
Because it's important, but I want to start with the divorce because it's like, there are people who are in relationships who divorced, and there's been a stigma about divorce,
Mhm.
like, especially in the church, especially in the Christian community.
Yes.
It's like, right, because God hates divorce, and so when people get divorced, it's like a stain, right? And so, but I want to ask you. So first,
Mhm.
my first question for you is: in your divorce, when did you realize that the marriage was going south?
That's a good question. The marriage was going south from before we even got married. Um,
But did you know that? Did you, like, while you were in it? Could you see it? When did you start to see it?
so when I started to see it was about a month after we actually got married.
Yeah.
And all the hard work that I was doing, the 16 hours a day, the planning this, the making decisions that were just impossible to make without any type of help or guidance or support. You know what I mean? Just fix this, get this done. It was all on me. And I had this kind of before we got married, just this notion that okay, well, hey, God is here. God is approving of this marriage, and once I get married, all these problems will solve themselves. And about a month into the marriage, I realized that the problems weren't solved, and they were just getting worse. I was working the same, if not more. Um, the issues that we had before marriage were still there and getting worse. And it was just it wasn't getting better. And even though I hadn't accepted it, I still had that hope factor that God's in control and this will work itself out. It wasn't being worked out. And the more that I hoped, the more that I tried to, take control of the situation, take control of the marriage, and just kind of interject, my values and my views, the more of a spiral it became, and just out of control it became. But yeah, I definitely noticed that about a month. I gave it about a month. I mean, it was noticeable, like I said, from the day we got married. But when I finally had that aha moment of wow, things really aren't changing, was about a month into our marriage.
Mm. So about a month in, you noticed some changes. A month in,
No,
but
no,
you
no. I noticed things weren't. Well, I did notice some changes, but they weren't changing for the better.
uh okay.
You
So you
know,
noticed the red flags. You noticed
absolutely.
the red
Red
flags.
flags that I chose to ignore before the wedding, and red flags that I chose to ignore after the wedding, just because I wanted to be married so bad. And totally my fault for not one accepting the red flags, two confronting the red flags, doing anything about the red flags, speaking on the red flag. Well, I spoke on them, but um, not setting boundaries, clear cut
Mm,
boundaries,
mm.
and just or setting boundaries and not upholding them.
Yeah. Okay. So okay.
Hmm.
Because you said something in there. You wanted to be married so
I
bad.
wanted to be married so bad, brother. And
How long? How long were y'all dating?
we were dating for about 4.5 years before we got married.
Okay.
The first 3 years of us dating was, in my mind, incredible. I remember I was telling everybody, hey, this is the one. She's been consistent. She was there for me. She supported me. At least I felt. Was just always by my side. We traveled together, we partied together, we did it all together. But we moved as a unit in my mind, and we did that for, like I said, consistently for about 3 years. After that, I said, well, this is a good amount of consistency. This is it. Okay, God, thank you for showing me my wife. This is I'm gonna take it from here, kind of so to speak. We'll get
I
into that
gotta pray
later.
to God.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. But after 3 years, we flew down to South Beach, Miami, and I proposed to her on the beach, and almost instantaneously. I mean, like, it, if not the end of that trip, that night, things started to things started to change, and not for the better. Um, I I I noticed things slowly but surely, especially some controlling, manipulative behaviors that I was just like, oh, maybe this just a phase. Maybe, this ain't the real her. This isn't the person I've been seeing these last 3 years. So I don't know where this is coming from, and just making excuses for it. If you want to get into details, I mean, things like withholding information, withholding sex, which she never did. Um, me finding out about things after the fact that were could have been effective, or ended up being detrimental to the relationship and marriage. Finances, just the whole totality of just us not communicating effectively the way that I felt that we had been before, and me just saying, you know what, it'll get better. Not doing anything to make it better, but just saying it'll get better.
Mm. So you noticed. So you proposed, and then everything changed.
I proposed
And
and
you noticed.
everything changed. I
And you
noticed,
noticed.
yeah, we started getting more and more distant. Now, mind you, she laid it on the table as soon as we got married. I want a big wedding. I want to be married at a huge venue. I want a huge after party. I mean, you were at the wedding. You know how big
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah.
But that was the immediate expectation was, hey, this is what I need us to do. And first it was, oh, well, how's all that gonna get paid for? 400 people at, you know what I mean, at a wedding, and a after. I mean,
Yeah. Reception.
the
Yep.
reception.
All that.
That's a lot of people to feed in a lot of drinks to give out. You know what I mean? Open bar
Yep.
too? Oh, okay. Well, so with that being said, the agreement was, okay, well, her family is going to be paying for it. My family would pay for the was it the dress or dress rehearsal? You know what I mean? The day before, and her family was going to take care of it. You want this big wedding? Let your family take care of it. I was down. Of course, I was more than willing to help and say, you know what, I can help out. We can help out. We can do this together. Wherever they can't, provide for, we can pick up the slack. But hey, if this is what you want, let's give you what you want. And
Yeah.
and again, I wasn't opposed to it. You know what I mean? It sounded great. You know what I mean? Sure, let's have a big wedding. Let's get married at University of Maryland Chapel. Let's have one of the biggest ceremonies after that anybody ever saw. You know what I mean? We're gonna do this right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just remember that I got to work. I got to work. I started working 16 hours a day, overtime, as much overtime as I could get, to the point that I ended up working for two and a almost I would say, well, totality was 2.5 years, but we got married at what about just a year and some change after I proposed to her. And I went to work, no days off, 16 hours a day. You know what I mean?
Right.
And as I saved more and more and more, she kept saying her family could help less and less and less. And I'm like, well, then we need to make some changes. You know what I mean? Like, well, no, this is the wedding that I want. This is the wedding we say we want it, so we need to make it happen. Well, okay, how much do you have on this? Well, I'm nothing. I need you to come up with it. You know what I mean? And it was just like more and more and more put on my plate and less put on the family's plate and less taken from the original agreement of this is how we were going to get this done. Again, I didn't put any objection up to it. I just did the work. I said, this is what you want. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. And that's what I continue to do up and through the marriage was try to figure it out, figure out the finances, figure out how we were going to get, things taken care of. Just, don't ask any questions. Don't put up a fight. Don't put up a fuss. Figure it out.
Now, did you do that because you um loved her, or because you really just wanted to get it? Like what made
No,
you
I was
with
in
all
love.
that?
Oh, I mean, bro, I loved her. I put her on a pedestal so high. Um, it wasn't just that I was under the notion of happy wife, happy life was the right way to go. I genuinely cared and genuinely loved her. Um, but let me kind of delve a little deeper into that. I didn't love myself at the time, though. And not loving myself, I mean, for people that didn't listen, haven't got a chance to check out our prior episodes, but I was an active alcoholic during this time, an active drug user, copious amounts of marijuana, lots of opioids, lots of ecstasy and Molly. Those all played a part into our relationship. You know what I mean? We partied together, we partied hard. Um, but in saying so, I always had abandonment and acceptance issues. I didn't feel worthy. So here comes this woman that, seems to love me, showed me 3 years of a great time. Oh, this has to be it. And I got to make this work.
Mm,
I have to make this work because I'm not worthy of anybody else. I'm not worthy of anything better than this. And you know, in the grand scheme of things, you get what you settle for. But in my mind, I wasn't settling. In my mind, that's as best as I could do.
right. Which which is settling,
Yeah,
right?
which is settling. Yeah,
Yeah, this is as good as I could get.
yeah.
So let me take it. But you said you did love her.
hmm Absolutely, man. Yeah, I loved her. I loved her with all my heart. Um, I genuinely cared about her. I cared about her well-being. Um, I thought about her before I thought about me. If I was in pain, I was worrying if she was in pain before I would take care of my pain. If I was hungry, I was worrying about was she hungry more than me getting something to eat. Like I put her first, and it wasn't just because I thought that was the way to go. I cared about her. I cared for her in as holistically as you can think. I cared for taking care of her. I cared for her as far as, trying to make sure that um, she was appreciated. She felt appreciated. I tried to do that as best as possible. I tried to be as open communicate. I tried to practice open communication as much as possible so that she felt respected, so that she felt a part, of me, so that she knew she had a piece of me, so that she knew she was my heart.
Yeah. Yeah. I think love is a very interesting and tricky thing.
Hmm.
Um because sometimes I think, like, it's just really tricky. I sometimes when I talk about self-care,
Yeah.
I always tell my clients, like, you have to have your self-care has to be for you.
Hmm.
If your self-care is so that you could do something else,
Hmm.
then it's not really self-care.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's morphed, or it's not morphed, it's disguised
Hmm.
as self-care, but really it's not. It's like, okay, I'm doing this so that you could be okay, but I'm not
Hmm.
really doing it for me.
Hmm.
So it's not really self-care.
Yeah.
And so I bring that up because as I'm listening to you, I'm hearing, like, okay, you got the abandonment issues, and I'm wondering, did you love her because you loved her, or you loved her because you didn't want her to abandon you?
Abandonment had never crossed my mind, to be honest with you. You know what I mean?
Mm,
I was under a covenant with God. This covenant with God states that rich or poor, sickness and health, thick and thin, go down the whole line, but forever. Well, at least in this human body, you know what I mean?
mhm.
So I had not even, abandonment didn't cross my mind. Um, what crossed my mind is trying to be the best husband I could be without knowing what a husband was. I didn't have a father figure really in my life, at least physically in my life. My father, my mother divorced before I was born. So I never saw what a husband really consisted of. I was always just told, from him and her and they and them. And I just tried my best to, take everything that I was told um, and learn in society and put this picture of a husband together and be that, not knowing really how to be that.
So you just learning on the fly.
I was learning on the fly, absolutely. I was learning how to be in a long-term relationship on the fly. I was learning how to be engaged. I was learning how to be married. Um, while looking at all these red flags that previously I would have been like, no, this ain't, we're not going for this. You know what I mean? And
Right.
just letting all of these just the distance that started to happen between us as far as, like I said, communication. You know, we would always know where each other were, text each other, little words of affirmation. I'll be here. Food's waiting on the stove. Baby, I clean this up for you. Don't worry about it. Just that type of everyday
So that's how it
communication.
started off
That's how I started
for the,
off
for the first three
for
years.
the first 3 years. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
then, just like that, everything changed as soon as you said, "Would you marry me?"
Straight up, just like that. I'm
Wow.
talking about in the blink of an eye, a New York minute.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And again, it wasn't that it wasn't in my face. It wasn't that it wasn't there to see. It was right there to see. I just chose to ignore it. And the crazy thing about it, it was beating at me. You know what I mean? Like, why could
Yeah.
you ignore these things that I'm almost purposely putting in front of your face? You know what I mean? Laughing at you. And it's just like, because somehow God's going to work it out. Baby, I love you so much. So I know you got to love me because we're married and it's just all going to work out. And I just kept playing that tape over and over again, over and over again, um, for the duration of our marriage.
Mm, mm. Yeah. Wow. Wow. So now you're a husband,
Mm-hmm.
right? Never seen a husband,
Never
or right.
saw
So you're
husbands, just never lived with one. Never,
never
never.
lived with one,
Yeah.
right? So you're figuring this thing out on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
How did that change your identity?
Mm.
Because you go
What kind of?
from, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, during the process, how to change my identity? Good question. I was seeking God, but
Mhm.
I was seeking God on my terms. And what I mean by that is, it's like, hey, God, thank you for providing me with the wife, and thank you for letting us be able to party and travel together. I want to keep all those things, all right? But also show me how to follow you and to lead through you while I party, drink, smoke, travel, turn a blind eye to all the foolishness that's going on around here. Skip that part, God. Just turn your eyes away from that and show me how to follow you and lead the way. Can we do that? You know what I mean? Like, that was my bargaining system. That was how I was coming to God at the time.
So that's what you mean when you say, "All right, God, I got it from here."
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, yeah. When I said, God, I got it from here, I was like, God, I'll never forget. I think I've told you this before. I never asked God if she was who I should marry. I told God I was going to marry this person, and God was like, okay, do you? That's what you're gonna do. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
You know.
So, now that's an interesting point that you just bring up,
Hmm.
because yes, you told me before, right? But we haven't said, So you said you didn't ask God,
I didn't ask God.
you told God,
I told God.
and the moment you told God,
Hmm.
the moment you proposed,
Hmm.
red flags
Red
all over the
flags
place.
all over the place.
So it was almost like you said, "Hey God, she's the one," and God said, "Okay, well if you think that's the case, here's the red flags, boom, 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 boom," and you
Hey,
said,
you know what though? Let me break that down even further. There were red
"Yeah,
flags before I got married,
oh,
but I was so emotionally vested that, when somebody makes you feel good, when you feel appreciated, when you feel loved, you know what I mean? Those things aren't at the forefront of your mind. They're not even a priority. It's just like, oh, I messed up, and I was like, well, that was kind of a big mess up. I mean, not a big
mm-hmm,
mess up, but like, again,
yeah,
communication. You know what I mean? Like, someone, if they normally come straight home after work, and all of a sudden they out till 11 o'clock and didn't call you and tell you what was happening, just came inside like, oh, I was just at such and such. I was at my girl's house.
right,
Oh, okay,
right,
babe. All right, just glad you're home. You know what? Hey, it's all good. Just don't do that again. And then they do it again. You know what I mean? It's okay,
right,
babe. I understand. You forgot. It's okay. Things like that. And I mean, that actually is an example, but way
mm-hmm,
more examples of that did go on that I was too emotionally attached to her. You know what I mean? I felt like
mm-hmm,
I needed her. I felt like, um the little things in my mind were little things didn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, the little mistakes and the little, not being considerate things here and there. No, they don't matter. Overall, she's a great catch. And so that's what I drove my mind into thinking. So again, when you ask, when I told God I was going to marry her, oh yeah, the red flags, bam, they go right there. I mean, like, put them right here, right here. You look that way, they're going to be right there. They all over. You know what I mean? And here
yeah.
I am, just with tunnel vision, just focused on her and figuring out how to make someone happy when I'm not happy with myself, which was
And see, that's why I wonder, and I'm probably gonna keep coming back to this
sure.
because that's why I'm wondering if your love was almost masquerading as love, but it's really
Hmm.
fear of abandonment. Because it, and I know see, the thing is, like, it doesn't come up consciously. It doesn't
Right.
come up consciously. Like, you're not gonna, right, but on a subconscious level, you're you're yes, you have love for her. Yes, you love her, but at the same time, you're neglecting all of these red flags.
Hmm.
Well, you don't do that with somebody you love. You neglect red flags because you don't want them to leave.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. That is
And,
definitely a part of it. Yes.
and the only reason why I bring that up is because I think a lot of people. I mean, I've done it too, where because we've had the fear, it masquerades as, okay, I love this person, so therefore I'm going to tolerate this and this and this and this, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, first off, because you said something, you said, I don't love myself.
Mm-mm. Not at all.
Do you think you can love somebody if you don't love yourself?
It's a good question. Can you love somebody if you don't love yourself? Okay, I'm going to answer that not directly, but I'm gonna end there. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Mm, yeah.
Can you love somebody without loving yourself? Yes. But would you do it in all the wrong ways? Absolutely. Um, when you love yourself, that sets the precedence. That sets the bar for treating the next person. Because what's the second commandment that God tells us to do? Love thy neighbor as thyself. So if
Yeah.
I don't love me, I can only love you. I'm loving you in my way. I'm loving you the best way that I think I can, but it's all the wrong. It's it's a facade almost. It's fa love. In my mind, I'm thinking that I'm giving you love because I'm being nice to you, because I'm supporting you, because I'm here for you, because all the surface level things I'm doing. And in my mind, that's me loving you. But me not
Mm,
respecting myself, me not loving myself says, wait a minute, you got to go deeper than that. Are they reciprocating what you doing? Are you setting boundaries? Are they respecting your boundaries? Are they setting boundaries that you're respecting? It's so much more than what you can do for that person. It's so much more than just being a support system. That starts with you loving yourself first, to say, this is what I'm willing to deal with, this is what I'm not willing to deal with. This is how I love me. This is how I will not tolerate it being loved any less than. Um so when you say, can you? Yeah, sure. I don't think that it's the right kind of love. And I think a lot of guys get tricked into the feeling that someone makes them feel being loved versus actually loving someone.
yeah. Yeah. Getting tricked into the feeling.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. Mm. Shoot, there was so much in there that you said that I really wanted to I was like, I wanted to jump in a couple times
Yeah,
because y- you're talking about the things that you could do for somebody.
sure.
And I think okay, so when you say um what kind of love would you say, so you said you loved her. What kind of love would you say you had for her, or how would you describe your love for her to the point to where you could say I loved her?
So, you know, so I'm just going to be as honest as I can. When she
Yeah.
was around me, I felt amazing. Even when things weren't great, just because she was there. When she wasn't there, I missed her with my whole heart. Even if it was just like 5 minutes, me going to the gas station, her running to the gas station. When she was around, I wanted her to be as happy. I wanted her to feel safe. I wanted her to feel supported. I wanted her to feel respected. I wanted her to genuinely know that that is how my that was authentic, and it wasn't just me putting on a show. Um, I again, like I said, I put her on a. I definitely had her on a pedestal, but that pedestal wasn't just, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got her. I won't get any other one. No, that pedestal was, you know what? I adore you. I love you. You're on a pedestal. I worship you almost. You know what I mean? And you know, I would always take her into consideration whenever I was making a decision. You know what I mean? How is this going to affect my wife? How is this going to affect my fiance? Ultimately, how is this going to affect us? But before that, priority, ultimately, how is this going to affect my wife? Forget me. You know what I mean? How is this going to affect her? And those are the decisions that I would make. That was my thought process, going through the relationship with her, which I thought was love.
So you loving her, you're doing all of this stuff
Hmm.
for her so that she can feel respected.
Hmm.
And so okay.
All the stories that she told me about her exes doing this and that to her, I tried to make sure she didn't get a glimpse of that, whether they were
Mhm.
made up or not. You know what I mean? I tried to be, just an advocate for her, saying that a future is bright with me, and I'm going to show you that just by being everything that I think you want me to be. whether I could be that or not.
So you're being everything that she that you think she wants you to be,
Sure, sure.
and you're giving her all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so in doing that, what changed? Like what was the what started to happen to make you say, because there was red flags from the beginning.
Sure.
Once you said I do, there were red flag. Not I do. Once you proposed,
Mm-hmm.
there were major red flags.
Sure.
You got married.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
A couple things started to happen. So the first thing that happened was about 5 months into our marriage. This was when COVID was happening. 2018 was first hitting, and I mean, I was just still working. I'm still working 16 hours a day. 5 months into our marriage, and I'm like, I hadn't asked her. I'm like, babe, have you got a raise? You know what I mean? You work for the government. Like what's going on? And she'd just be like, no, no, my finance is still the same. Basically from the 4 years ago that I met her, 4+ years that I met her, she was acting like she was still on the same pay grade. And I remember calling my mom and talking to her about just, she's like, why are you working so hard? I'm like, man, these bills need paid, and Marion never has any money. And my mom was like, wait a minute, isn't she a GS? And I was like, yeah. She was like, that's public information. Let me look her up. My mom retired from the federal government. She
Mm-hmm.
looked her up. She was like, son, I hate to tell you this, but she making 80 something, 80 plus thousand. I said, no,
Mm-hmm.
she only making 50. No, she's making 80, closer to 90. I said, are you kidding me? And sent it over to me in plain English. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow. Wow, wow, wow. As much as I've been telling you, I'm hurting, as much as I've been telling you I need a break, as much as I've been telling you I can't. Now, mind you, I'm working all this, and this is not just a sane person working. I'm taking ecstasy and Molly just to stay up, just to be able to work these shifts, and then drinking and smoking just to come down. You know what I'm saying? So that I could sleep for those 1 hour, 2 hours, you know what I'm saying, before I had to get back up and go back to work. So I was never sober and never sane. Let's put that there. So I wasn't ever thinking in the right mind frame, but just to physically, keep going, just to physically be able to work 16-hour days every day, I needed some outside influence,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So that was the first where I started when we had a first, little argument. I was like, how are you, and for about a week or two, she acted, supportive and babe, take off a weekend and all this. And right after that 2 week, it was right back to the same problem, same attitude, same everything. Like that had never even happened. Oh, well,
Mm-hmm.
I know we had that talk, but these bills still need to be paid, and this still needs to happen, and this still needs to happen. And I'm just like, wow. And she's telling me that her money's tied up with this and money tied up with this and things that I'd never heard about. And I'm just like, okay, babe, I'll figure it out. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just what that's as honest as I can be. That's
And
how I was.
so here it is. You being the husband, you trying to provide. You trying
Sure.
to do everything that you think that she may want you to do.
Now,
Right.
mind you, I'm making 45,000, but with overtime, I'm making about close to 65.
Yeah.
So still a far ways away from 90.
Right. 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 And y'all not working together.
No,
Yeah. Yeah. Y'all money isn't going together. You're taking care of everything.
I'm taking care. I'm going to work. Actually, going to work. I was working downtown DC on M Street, and literally physically had to be at work every day, even during COVID. When the federal government shut down, she was home every day. I was at work
Mm-hmm.
every day. And what started to happen after that was the communication, the text stopped. You know, my calls started going unanswered. Um, little things like that I started to notice. And then when I come back, we're like, hey, how come you didn't pick up? Oh, I was asleep. All right, well, I called you 3 different times today. You would sleep there each time? Yeah. Like things that just answers that didn't even make sense. And then her
Right.
getting like an attitude with me, like when I would like ask reasonable, rational questions, like, hey, if you didn't see this text from this morning, I was asking you about such and such, I wasn't getting any type of words of affirmation anymore. I wasn't getting any type of words of support or encouragement or anything. It was just distance. And the distance just grew and grew and grew. And yeah, I mean, as we were only married 8 months, so a lot happened in
Right.
these last three
Right.
months. So after, like I said, after we had that talk and the distance started to grow, um, things started to show themselves. I started to have this gut feeling that something wasn't right at my house. You know what I mean? I come home and the house just didn't feel right. It didn't have the same smell. It didn't have the same feel to it. It didn't have the right temperature. I can't even tell you, but just something ain't right in my house.
You're right.
Something
Right.
don't feel right here, and I don't even feel right being here. You know what I mean? Which I've never felt before or never paid attention to before. And I think what really got me to I shouldn't say, well, all these red flags are there, but the red flag that was in my face that I could not ignore. It was about 7 months into the relationship. I mean, to our marriage. I remember I came home early one day, and I didn't announce that I was coming home early. I was tired, and it wasn't like I was trying to surprise or anything like that, but I was supposed to work a double, and the other person showed up, and I was just like, okay, don't worry about it. I'll go home. Whew. So I get home, and I'll never forget this. As soon as I opened the door, I was like, wait a minute, somebody else is in my house. And I mean, it smelled like somebody's cologne, and I didn't wear whatever that cologne was. The it was all dark in the living room, and it's never dark in the living room. Like, it just, something didn't. I knew something was up. And as soon as I walked in, she was like, "What are you doing home?" Yelling from the bedroom, "Why are you home so early? What you doing?" I'm like, "Nah, babe, I'm okay." And I remember as I was turning the corner, like you had to go to the kitchen and then turn the corner to go down the hallway, I could just hear commotion. And I was just
Mm.
like, oh no, oh no. I mean, there's somebody else in here. Jared, I went to the kitchen. I got the biggest knife we had. I mean, this big old blade anyways, I grabbed that blade. I started walking down that hallway. And I mean, I was fully committed, fully committed. I didn't care. I'm killing whoever's in here. And that's what's about to happen. And I'll never forget, I literally was maybe about 3 feet from that door, and I felt a hand, just like a huge hand. I mean, a massive size hand
Mm.
that stopped me dead in my tracks. And just the voice that just said, don't go in there. You can't unsee this. Don't go in there. And Jay, I was literally almost in a trance. Like something just turned me around. I went back to the kitchen. I put the knife down. Now, mind you, I'm still in my work uniform and everything. I
Yeah.
rolled up a J, and you know what I mean, and literally got back, took the J with me, got back in the car, and went back to work. Smoking a J, going back to work. That's how
Wow.
reckless that was. And I literally pulled up to the job and just sat out front of the job.
Mm.
Just God, what is going on? This is what just happened. I had felt so low, and I wasn't even mad at her. I just felt so low, just so worthless, just so, I'm not even good enough to not be cheated on in a marriage. I'm not even good enough to be told the truth to. That's how low I felt. And that was the only
Wow.
thing that was on my mind, was just, man, you really are worthless. You really, everything that was told about you in your younger years is true.
Mm.
And I just remember thinking that, just thinking, going over that and just being like, God, why? God, why? Just why? And just not hearing anything back, you know? And then what's crazy about that time is I finally went back home a couple hours later, and she acted like nothing even happened. Like
Mm.
nothing even happened. Hey, babe, how was your day at work? Oh, yeah. Why? Yeah, you came home. I saw you left back out. Why'd you even come home? Oh, I got off work early. Why'd you leave back out? Why'd I leave back out? I didn't even say anything. I just really was just in shock. You know what I mean? Just in this twilight zone of, this is what my life's come to. And I did what I do best. I went, poured a couple shots, my favorite vodka, rolled another J, started hitting it, passed it back and forth with her. and did what I always do. Went to my secret stash and took a handful of pills and drank, smoked, and was off the pills.
Mm.
That was my life every day,
Wow.
you know?
Wow. So that man. So
That was the first one that I had to actually face. I didn't face it, but I couldn't not face it. I just didn't face it with her.
yeah. Wow. So was that the moment? Was that the straw that made you say this is over?
No, no, unfortunately it wasn't. It got way worse.
So that wasn't enough.
No, no. You ever heard people say that they too strong for their own good?
Yes. Yeah. I often tell people, sometimes your strength is your biggest weakness.
That was mine. That was mine. Was just not throwing in the towel. You know what I mean? Whether die on my shield, if that makes sense. That's exactly where I was headed.
Mhm.
Um, so from that day on, it was interesting because I noticed when I would drive home, regardless of what time of the night, and this wasn't every day, but almost every day, when I'd be driving in, this certain car would be driving out. And I mean, I'm in Whitehall Square, you know what I'm saying? In Suitland, you know what I mean? So there's only one way in, and you got to go left or right when you come down the driveway.
Right. Right.
So as I'm coming down the driveway, I'm seeing this same car coming out the driveway like 3-4 times a week. You know what I mean? Like at the same point that I'm pulling into.
Yeah.
And then a number of times when I would be leaving out, I'm seeing this same car pulling in. And I'm never putting two and two together. I'm just like, oh, and I guess they got the work schedule that I got. But I would never see them parked there. Like, I would never come out and that car would be parked. On the
Mm,
weekends, that car wasn't there. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, like this. If this car lived here, I don't know where they lived and why they was coming always coming down my side.
right.
So finally, I started to pay attention to that. And like I didn't, again, still didn't do anything about it. I still didn't, pursue it or ask the questions. I just started to finally take notice of it. And I started to ask her, questions like, "Hey, where, are you going to be? Where you going to be tonight? You know what I mean? Or what's going to happen? Or where are you going to be? What are you going to do?" And she started telling me that she had met some friends and that she would go cook for them. I mean, over there and cook. And I was like, "Oh, is that what you're doing? Okay. Can you bring me a plate home?" And she'd be like, "Yeah, yeah." And every time there was no plate. And I started noticing things like she would tell me that that she didn't go out for that day, but her washcloth would be, you know what I mean, have makeup all over it when the washcloth was dry before I left out in the morning. You know what I'm saying? She got a whole change of clothes sitting right there next to the bed that weren't pulled out. You know what I mean? Before I left. You know what I mean? Just little things that I wasn't saying, but little clues that I was just paying attention to. You know what I mean? I'm like, you was
Right.
here all day? Huh. Okay. All right. So you didn't get hungry, you didn't cook anything, you didn't, we got the same amount of milk, same amount of water, you got the same amount of wine here, you didn't feel like eating or drinking nothing today. So that was happening. And this was all so this is about the last 3 weeks that before, she walked out. But the straw that broke the camel's back, two things. There were actually two. This was
So before you get there,
okay.
so you go through this situation, right? You go
Sure.
back to work,
Sure.
you come back,
Sure.
she asks you, why'd you leave? You
Hmm.
never even bring it up. So y'all
No.
don't even talk about this
No.
ever.
No.
Okay. And then so you're seeing you're
I
seeing this
posted it
car.
on Facebook. I posted it on Facebook. I was like, I'll never get that post. You can go to my Facebook page and go look back at 2018 and see that post and say, what do you do when you come home early and another man's in your house?
So
Go look it up. My post is there.
so you posted it on Facebook.
Yeah, I posted on Facebook. This is the type of mindset, this is the mind frame that I'm in. Just
Yeah.
super immature, super
Wow.
stupid, super everything. I mean, nothing, not a man, just a child.
So you post it, so you're willing to post it on Facebook, but
But
you're
not
not willing to
confront her.
talk. but you're not willing to confront her.
No,
Wow.
no, I
Okay.
wasn't.
So
Because if I would have
so
confronted her, then I would have had to confront the fact that it was over.
okay. Okay. So you didn't want to confront her. You
Mm-mm.
see in his car.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know where the car stays because they're not
Mm-mm.
there, but they're driving in every time you drive it out,
Mm-hmm.
or often when you're driving out, and they're
Yep.
driving out every often when you're driving in.
Sure.
Okay. Now, start I break the camel's back.
So this was about 2 weeks after that. I will never ever forget this day. I go outside. I come home. I had a routine when I came home. I would always come home. I would take out the trash, and then I would start doing calisthenics. That was my routine, almost our whole marriage. You know what I mean? Like I didn't never went to sleep right away. I would do calisthenics until I got tired. So this particular night, um, I came home and she was already asleep like she normally was. And I grabbed the trash. But this time, instead of taking my keys, which I always take my keys with me, I took her keys for whatever reason because they were just closest to me. We had a security door before, so we had a building where you had to open up the front door with a key before you got to your apartment door.
Okay.
So I grabbed her keys, and all I had was my phone on me and her keys. I went and I took the trash down. And the trash was, right across the street, the big dumpsters. And as I'm walking back, I'm right in front of the steps to go up to the building. A guy comes around the corner, a young boy, he puts a gun to my head. A girl comes around the other corner and puts a gun to my stomach, and they force me down to the ground. And I'll just never forget how scared I was. I was beyond scared. You know how they say your life flashes in front of you. Whatever that means.
Yeah.
I was like, this is how I'm about to go out. This is it. And the only other thing that I could think about at the time, as I was being forced to the ground, was, dang, I got my keys on me. If they try to make me go inside and to the apartment, I'm gonna have to take them down to the laundry room because I'm not taking them to my wife. I'm not taking them to my apartment. I'm gonna die down there. You know what I mean? Like that was the only thing I was thinking about. And as I'm lying on the ground, they don't even say anything to me. They grab her keys out of my pocket and grab my phone, and then the guy shoots, and the gun jams, and the girl shoots, and the gun jams, and there was a third person that was coming up, and that third person, I don't know if they tossed the keys to him or what. It sounded like that's what they did, but he chirped. You know, you chirp on the not car
Yeah,
alarm, but
the car
the
alarm.
car thing.
Yeah.
Chart, and her car was literally right next to us, like the car over. And he jumps into their car and jumps into her car, and the other two got up and took off running. And I mean, I heard that I'm hearing all this, you know what I mean? And I'm
Mhm.
hearing her car pull out, and I look up, you know what I mean? And I see the car pulling off, and I'm still staying on the ground for a second because I'm shook. And
Right.
then as I saw her car peeling down, I stand up and I see them two jump into it was like a white Honda Accord at the bottom of the street. And Jared, I'm scared at this point. I'm shook. I can't get back inside. So I'm yelling at the top of my lungs, yelling. And we only stayed on the second floor. You know what I'm saying? So there's
Yeah.
the ground floor, and then second floor is right, right next there. I mean, right there. I'm
Yeah.
screaming at the top of my lungs, babe, please come get me. I've been robbed. I've been robbed at gunpoint. Call the police. Come get me. Come get me. Jay, I was screaming at the top of my lungs for like 20 minutes straight. Now, mind you, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and this thing, no neighbors came out, nobody turned their lights on, and the thing about my ex was she was a light sleeper. You know what I'm saying? If somebody was outside, we were in Suitland, people fighting all the time. If she was outside, I mean, somebody fighting outside or arguing, she's 4 o'clock in the morning looking out the blinds. You know what I mean? And I'm yelling, like begging, just please, please open the door. You know what I mean? Please. I'm throwing rocks at the window, throwing rocks at the window, throwing rocks at the window, trying to break it. You know what I mean? At one point. And finally, bro, finally, she opened that window and she was like, "What happened to you?" And I'm like, "I just got robbed at gunpoint. Come get me. Come open the door." She's like, "Okay, I'm coming." Jared, it took her like another 5 minutes or so to come down. And I looked at her. I was like, "Why? Why did it take you so long to come down? I just told you I got robbed." And she told me, "Well, I needed to put some jeans on. You ain't want everybody to see my ass out, did you?" Excuse me, Lord. And I'm looking at her like, "What?" You know what I'm saying? Like that's what you. So that's not even the craziest part. We go upstairs. I'm sweating bullets. I can't think straight. I'm panting. I'm out of can't even catch my breath. I mean, I'm going through the emotions. And we call the police, you know what I mean? From her phone, you know what I mean? Finally. And the police show up. About 8 cruisers show up. And she comes
Mm-hmm.
outside with me and we're standing up front. And all 8 officers, these were 8 different police cars, and like all these officers all came up to me and they start grilling me with questions. I mean, like grilling me like I did something wrong. You know what I mean? Like, why were you out here? And what do you normally just come out here? That doesn't seem like a smart thing to do. I'm like, "Officer, I'm taking out the trash." "Okay, do you live here?" "Yes, officer, I live here." "Okay, well, is that something?" I mean, like just the most insane questions to try to make it seem like I'm not the victim here.
Mm.
And I'm looking at her for help. You know, I'm looking at her like, intervene. You know what I'm saying? Like, have my back here. You know what I mean? And she's just
Mm-hmm.
standing there looking at the ground, like with just this dead, soulless look on her face. And I'll never forget that. I mean, I just never forget looking at her, and she just wouldn't even look at me. And I was just like, wow. And they were there for grilling me for about maybe 10, 15 minutes. And never forget, this detective, I'll leave his name off, you know what I mean? Because I don't need to start any mess. But a detective pulled up. And this particular detective talked to the officers. They all got into their cars and they left. So he comes up to me and he starts talking to me and he's like, "Hey, listen, can you write down, what just happened to you?" I am shaking so bad, Jay. I tell him, I said, "Brother, I can't write. I can't. No. Can my wife write? Can you? I can.
Yeah.
I can't write." He said, "No, listen. Just sit down on these steps and just try your best. That's all I need you to do. Just try your best." So I'm like, "Okay, I'll try my best." So he hands me a pen. I sit down on the steps and I'm trying to, hold my hand steady and trying to do something legible. Do you know, she starts talking to him and they talking like they know each other. He's like, "Don't worry about this, babe. Everything gonna be okay." She's like, "You sure?" And I mean, like, they're on the top of the steps right behind me talking like this. And I'm like, they know each other. What is this? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's obvious that they know each other. They having a regular she wasn't even talking to me. You know what I'm saying? And he just pulls up and they talking to each other. And in the midst of me writing, he was like, he comes down off, off the steps. Is like, "Okay, that's enough. That's enough. Thank you." Just takes the I didn't even get 2 sentences onto the paper. Takes it and gets into the car and he drives away. I'm like, wow. So that was that right there. And again, I didn't pursue asking her why, it took her so long. Why wasn't she talking? Why wouldn't didn't she have my back? I think I was like, "Babe, why didn't you say anything?" And she was just like, "What did you want me to say? They were talking to you, not me." And I mean, just that kind of answers, you know what I mean? And I was just, I mean, Jay, I was in a twilight zone, bro. Like, this can't be real, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That happened on a Thursday night. The very next week, um, that happened on the Thursday. That happened on a Thursday night, not the very next week. Well, I'll get to the very next week. That happened on a Thursday night. Um, and it took its toll on me. It really took its toll on me too. I was just paranoid. Do you know what I mean? Like, super
Yeah.
paranoid. I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to take the trash outside. I mean, I would run to my car, and the car's only feet from my door, run to my car. And the thing is, she didn't even have a problem with her car being stolen. I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, so I would still go to work like I did every day, and went back to work that very next day. Didn't even take off. You know what I mean? Got more like consoling from the people at my job. You know what I mean? It was just crazy. And even they are at my job like, what's going on with y'all? Because this something ain't right, bro. You know what I mean? Like, this really happened to you and this is how it went down. And I'm like, yeah, it'll be okay. Everything will be okay. Well, the next thing, the biggest thing happened, and this is what separated everything. Um, a couple of days go by, and I want to say my birthday is August 22nd. It was like four or 5 days before my birthday. I went to work, and I just never forget leaving for work. I felt just awful. I had this gut feeling that just this pain in my gut, this pain in my head, just and at work, the whole time I'm at work, I just felt so awful, like just this intuition of something is wrong, something is not right, something is horribly wrong. I don't know what it is, but something is horribly wrong. And I just remember I just survived that shift, and just made it through that shift. And I couldn't wait to get home. I just wanted to go home and self-medicate. You know what I'm saying? Told you what self-medicating looked like.
Yeah.
Jay, I get to the house and it was obvious that there was a party of some sorts in the house. Furniture was out of place. It was hot up in there, like that after party hot, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
The smell was just, it smelled like cologne and butt. You know what I mean? It was and perfume. It was just I was just like, what is this? You know what I mean? And I'll just never forget. I was like, you know what? I'll just deal with this later because, of course, she was fake sleep. You know what I mean? So I stayed up that whole night, Jay, because she always would get up around 6:30. And I just did calisthenics. I did push-ups. I was drinking. I mean, I tried to shut my liver down that night. I was drinking so much and just doing push-ups, sit-ups, push-ups, sit-ups. I mean, the whole night. Come about 6:15, 6:30 that morning, we had a two-bedroom. I went to the other bedroom. And I waited till I heard our bedroom door open up, and I came right out. And I was like, "What happened last night?" Like, again, gaslighting. What you mean? You crazy? You know what I'm saying? Like, she was the biggest manipulator and gaslighter I could tell you. But I was there falling for it and going for it. So, hey, it is what it is. But gaslighting me. You crazy? Nothing happened. Why would you think something happened? I'm like, yeah, you're right, because nobody's allowed in the house. You know what I'm saying? Because we had that rule, and nobody's allowed in here unless me and you were both here, right? She was like, that's the rule. Why would there be anything? Jay, I don't know if this was God or what this was, but something told me go look around the couch. So I went out to the living room, and she's talking, and I remember as soon as I started looking around the couch, she just got quiet. And I'm looking around the couch, and I don't see nothing. I don't see nothing. So finally, I was like, man, let me go behind the couch. As soon as I go behind the couch, I find some Prada glasses with, some Prada glasses with, I don't know if they were fake Prada with rhinestones or real Pradas with diamonds, but some expensive Prada glasses. And I'm like, who do these belong to? And the first thing she says was, oh, they probably the maintenance man's. I said, huh? I said, we in Suitland. The maintenance man ain't got no Prada glasses. I know them. You know what I'm saying? What you talking about? She was like, well, just get them here. I'll find out who they belong to. I'm like, nah. I put it in my pocket. I said, we going to find out now. Who'd you have over here? I ain't have nobody over here. I ain't have nobody over. I told you. I said, so you telling me that these Prada glasses that's behind this couch, the maintenance man came up in here and decided to go behind our couch and put these glasses here. Make this make sense. She literally went out to the balcony. Or actually, no, she went to the kitchen first. And I don't know if she drank something or what she did, but she went out to the kitchen. She wasn't speaking to me. I'm like, you need to say something. I'm going off. Mm-hmm. She goes out to the balcony and she just earls out everything. I mean, she just pukes over the whole balcony, just like, I mean, just all this. I was just like, oh, what in the world is this? Bro, she came inside and she turned into somebody I had always seen, but never seen like this before. Man, she started cussing me slam out. I mean, calling me every name in the book, telling me I ain't no man, how worthless I am, and just digging. And now, mind you, I'm not gonna lie, I'm starting to dig back. I'm like, we don't need to get into all what was said, but it wasn't nothing pretty. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'm like, yo, you, this is messed up behavior. You know what I'm saying? What would your father think if he knew about this? She was like, I called her father. Mr. Such and Such, this is what your daughter just did. Is this something you would approve of? He was like, nah, put her on the phone. As soon
Mhm.
as I gave her the phone, she just went click, hung up right on him. I'm like, oh, you just hung up on your father. Wow. So I called the pastor that married us, who's her, brother-in-law or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I called the pastor that married us. I'm telling him what's going on. He said, no, 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 man, hold up. Put let's open up the laptop, put me on Zoom because I don't like what I'm hearing right now. I opened up the laptop, put it on Zoom in our room. It didn't take her 5 seconds to say, man, I don't care about none of this. F you. She's jumping in my face. Hit me, hit me, hit me. Don't you want to hit me? And I'm like, what? I'm looking at the pastor like, listen, that went on for an hour. The pastor tried his best to stay on the Zoom call with us. And finally, he's just like, this is enough. Y'all need to separate. He said, Ansu, you go out to the living room and you stay out there for the night and you she stays in the bedroom or vice versa, whatever. But y'all need to separate and come back talking in the morning. So that's what we did. Jay, it ain't even take 15 minutes. She came storming out that room. You embarrassing me with people. You this, and that. And it started cussing. Here we go again. Cussing out. I mean, this is like an all-day cuss out. I mean, an all-day cuss out to the nighttime cuss out. We cussing. I mean, I'm talking about from 6:30 that morning to almost 5:30 the next morning, going at it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how
Wow.
the police weren't called. Finally, I think I know my voice was gone and she stopped. I mean, we finally I think we were just both too tired to keep going. I mean, it was just a stalemate. There's
Yeah.
nothing more to say. We used up all the adjectives and adverbs. We used, you know what I mean? Like anything negative was said.
Yeah.
So I just never forget it. It was a Tuesday morning, and I just remember she was on the phone. She was just on the phone, and I wasn't saying nothing. I was just pissed. I'm like, I don't care who you on the phone with, whatever. We'll deal with this afterwards, after we calm down. And I just remember about 7:00, 7:30 actually. She was like, "Hey, I'm going over my girl's house to cool down." She called me an Uber to come pick me up, and I'm like, "Okay, go over your girl's house. That's fine with me." And she grabbed her purse, nothing else out the house. And she went downstairs and she sat on the steps that's in the front of our house for like 20 minutes on the phone. And I'm, of course, looking outside the whole time. You know what I mean? Like, okay, well, who's coming to pick her up? She said it's going to be an Uber. A light blue Tahoe came and picked her up. And she got right in the front seat. I'm like, wait a minute. This ain't no Uber. We don't get in the front seat of Ubers. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I mean, and as soon as she got in, it was tinted out and everything. Just rolled out, That was the last time I've ever seen her. And that was 4 days before my birthday in 2018. Yeah. So that was the
Wow.
final straw. Was her walking out.
Woo.
And
Okay.
Jay, if I hadn't walked out, she hadn't walked out, I'd still be fighting to this day. So yeah, that's what happened.
Wow. Oh man. Okay. Woo. As you were talking, and maybe we'll we're gonna have to pick this up again because I know. First off, that needs to digest a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, all the stuff that you mentioned, coming over. So you're under the impression that she's cheating.
Mhm.
People are over there.
Mhm. It all got confirmed later, but yeah, we'll have to do
All
a part two because
right,
it gets deeper.
all this stuff is happening, but also on the flip side, you're working 16 hours,
Mhm.
so you're working to try to support this.
Mhm.
Also on the flip side, you're self medicating.
Mhm.
So you're mollying out, you're drinking out, you're doing it's so much.
Mhm.
How did you, man? Hey, what was your relationship with God? Because right now, Like you got on the shirt, me and God versus whoever. What does that say?
Whoever wants to lose, baby. Whoever want to lose.
Right. So what was your relationship with God back then? Like during that time, because you're self medicating, it's all this stuff is happening. What's your relationship with God like?
God was not at the forefront of anything. He was just there to blame. Me to ask why too.
Ooh, no, you said it. He was there to blame.
Mm-hmm.
Good gracious. So God was just there to blame.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's wow. Wow.
Yeah. That's where I was with God at that time.
Well, um, sometimes God allows us to go through stuff so that we can get a better understanding of Him. And obviously, this was God allowing you to, hey, you got it? Okay. That's what you want to do? That's who you want to marry? Okay. You ain't got to ask me nothing. Go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it. And man, with the robbery, with the drugs, with the infidelity, with the woo, with the guns, with oh man, that's a movie.
Tell me about it, man. You know how many people when have told me after my testimony, you need to write a book. I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
I hear you, but yeah,
Yeah,
but no, I
yeah,
mean, I can't. That's all part of me. It's part of my past, but that's all part of my testimony.
yeah, yeah. But especially with the recovery aspect of it,
Sure.
and there's still, I mean, there's a lot that we can unpack there, but I think that's enough to chew on for a good little while.
Mm,
Um, but I also feel like and I do want to say thank you for even sharing that, because there are so many people that may not be in the exact same situation that you were in, but are in or have been in relationships where the red flags were there,
mm,
but they didn't have the self love
mm-hmm.
to be able to put up the boundaries, to be able to address those red flags, to be able and they allowed things to go and to go and to go and to go, and then finally, you know, the the back of the camel breaks, and they find themselves in divorce
Mm-hmm.
after doing everything that they thought that was supposed to be done. They find themselves in divorce, and I think there's a lot. I know that there's a lot of men who need healing from that,
Yeah.
because um not only does that bring up you know past trauma, past abandonment issues, but you said something. You said as you were talking, you said that you it was when you walked into the house, you put the knife down, got back into the car, you went back
Roll
to
to
work,
J,
you rode a J.
then got back
Yes.
into the car.
You rode a J, got back into the car, and your self talk in that moment was, you're not how did you say it? Something like,
Yeah.
you're
I
not
parked
worth.
when I got to I was just smoking a bob, you know what I mean, before I got to the job and just riding around. But as soon as I parked just in front of the building that I worked at, I just sat outside. And first it was just, why, God, why? But I didn't get any answers. And then my mind just went to worst case scenario. It's me. All this
Right.
trauma that I went through, and everybody saying this and that about me, and not being accepted by my family, and being abandoned and being rejected, and all this is just like, oh, this is all true. This is all really what how things are going to be in my life. This is how I'm viewed. This is how I'm not loved. This is how I'm not worthy of love. All that went through my head for
So
hours.
it was like confirmation of the most negative things that you have thought about yourself.
Sure, sure,
And
absolutely.
I find that there's a lot of men that are battling that, and they don't even realize it. They're battling it with their actions, but they don't realize that they're battling their younger self. That younger self that was abandoned, that younger self that was told he's not worth anything, that younger self that has so much trauma, and that's why, number one, I think it's important for men to be able to share their stories,
Mhm.
to be honest, because I think there's so many men who are afraid to share, because if I don't feel like a man, then how am I going to share something that makes me even feel less of a man? Right? It's hard. It's hard to do that. But when you can see a man, be open, be vulnerable, and say, "Listen, this is my story," then it gives another man an opportunity to be open and honest and start to heal,
Yeah.
which is a process all in itself, right?
Well, the
And
healing comes from the confession. I had to get the forgiveness from God. And
mm,
the hard part wasn't forgiving everybody. Forgiving her was easy compared to forgiving myself. That took work and still takes work to this day. And I think that, listening to what you're saying is you can't start to work on yourself until you forgive yourself and say, you know what, these things happened to me. They weren't my fault. And it's okay that they happened to me because God was with me and I'm still here and I'm still strong. And you got to start peeling away at the layers of that onion that you are right now and start to really say, you know what, I'm worthy of forgiveness. I'm worthy of, God forgives me. But, the forgiveness is one key component to your healing. The biggest part of your healing is being able to be transparent and being able to say, you know what, I don't have to live with this shame. I don't have to live with this guilt. Even though all these things happen to me, they don't define who I am and they don't define my future. They just are a testament of what I went through and what I was able to survive and go through and persevere through and endure. And those are all things that we forget to look at as men during the healing process. That shame and that guilt just keeps us blocked. It keeps us not wanting people to see who we really are, keeping that mask up, keeping that representative up. And nobody will ever know the true, genuine, beautiful person you are, the authentic person that God made you to be, because life has hit you so hard that all you know is wearing a mask so that you don't take on any more pain. Well, that
mm,
mask brings on pain. That
mm,
representative brings on pain because you're not being who you are. And when you're not being who you are, you're fighting to be somebody else and you're fighting to be somebody that you don't know how to be.
mm, mm. That representative brings on pain. Yeah, it does. I always say, like, one of the worst things that could happen is if you put on a mask and people actually like it.
Mm.
I think that's one of the worst things, because then you got to keep up that mask,
It's like telling a lie and people actually believe it
right? And you got to remember who you told the lie to. What
and
what,
keep
what
on
version
lying.
did you tell the lie? Right? And you're gonna
Yeah.
keep on lying. And when you put that mask on and people like it, you got to keep that mask on.
Hmm.
And and then even on a subconscious level, you go to, well, they don't really like me. They like who I'm pretending to be.
Hmm.
And so then you never become yourself, at least around that person, because you're afraid.
Bruh, let
They
me
like the
further.
mask.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
even further that? You
Yeah.
forget to know who you really are.
Gosh, that's the worst.
You keep up
That's
that mask long enough, you tell that lie to yourself long enough, you start to believe it.
yeah,
And you
yeah.
forget
That's
who you are. You forget who you were meant to be, you know? And that's what society does to a lot of people is it tells us we have to get our identity through people pleasing and through people liking us and through popularity and through clout and through all these other things that are just material and not of God. When God says you find your identity through me and your purpose through me, and the only validation that you need is through me. But when you're in the midst of that, you're in the midst of living comfortably in misery. That mask is all you know, and that representative is all you know, because you are so yearning. You need that validation so bad, because you really don't have an identity, or you're scared to be the authentic, true self you are, because so much pain has come with that.
Wow. That's sad. And but that's also why I think we need to help men to get past this, to get through this. You
Hmm.
know, and we need to help people get through it. But
Sure.
but definitely men, because sometimes you just need to go be able to go off by yourself as men and explore some things. You know, I do one of the I do gender groups, and I noticed that in my gender groups, um, men are a lot more vulnerable. They're not a lot more open because they see other men being vulnerable and open, and it's like it gives them permission,
Yep.
right, to be okay. And that's what you just did here. You allowed you gave men permission to say, listen, I'm open, I'm vulnerable. Like you started off and said, I'm open book, man. It's whatever. Right. And it's like, but you gave men permission to say, shoot, you know, I got a story too,
Mhm.
you know, and I went through divorce, and I need help. I need help not only you know the divorce is over, but it's like I haven't healed from it. I haven't recovered from it. I'm
Sure.
still struggling from the divorce, because the divorce didn't just take away material things. It took away my identity. It took away my purpose. It took away what I thought, everything that I thought I knew. It
Hmm.
took it away. And so I think this is why A, this is important, and B, this is why we are doing the retreats, because it's important to get the men to a place to where they can experience healing
And transformation.
and transformation.
Because there is a
Yeah.
better, there's a brighter side on but
Yes.
I won't jump. I won't jump the steps. We'll get to that in part two. But
Yeah.
yes, transformation and healing is key, and that's why these retreats are so key, especially for men, because a lot of men don't know how to heal.
Right.
A lot of men don't know how to forgive, just not other people, but don't know how to forgive themselves. A lot of men don't know how to let go of bitterness, and have chosen the path of bitterness because it's easier than choosing forgiveness.
Mm.
It's easier to choose selfishness. It's easier to choose dwelling on evil thoughts. It's easier to choose dwelling on rejection than it is to try to grow past it and try to grow into being accepting of your circumstances, but also being accepting that there's healing if you allow yourself to be healed. It takes work. It's not easy. It's a hard path, but it's there. You just have
Yeah.
to be encouraged to do it. You need a platform to do it, and that's why these retreats are all of that. They encompass the whole thing, the whole package, um, and to give men permission to heal.
Yeah. Yeah. Permission to heal.
Hmm.
That's important. You know, yeah, you're totally right with that. Like, I don't think a lot of men even feel like, I mean, because here's the thing: once your self worth and all of that has been attacked, it's like you don't even feel like you have the ability, but also it's like I'm not worth healing.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And so that this is extremely important. So first, thank you
sure,
again. Thank you.
yeah.
Like, you know, and we're gonna continue because we got more,
We got
more.
more.
We got more. That's not where the story ends.
Now,
But this is a great start to really get men to really start to say, okay, shoot, yeah, I need that. I need to get to where he's at, and I realize, you know, I got my story, and I need to find out how to get to the other side.
yeah.
And so, you know,
So part two. So remember, we're leaving off in 2018. A lot has changed and happened since then. We got
uh,
2025 now, so we're gonna catch up on all that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
there's definitely, I can attest to this. There's always beauty at the end of a storm. There's always light waiting for you at the end of the storm. But you have to get through that storm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bro, thank you.
Yep.
We will wrap this up. And yeah. All right, good peoples.
All right, good
See you
peoples.
next time.
Catch you on the next one. Peace.
Yeah.